shit heap.
Goddamn bastard.
Wedding.
Pussy.
Fuck him.
Bitch pussy.
Fuck your mother some more.
And now, I think I'll see how my premiere episode of From Pages to Pictures is being received on the interwebs.
Great idea, James. Also, a very good start. Very good start to the series. I look forward to future installments.
Great video! I've always enjoyed comparing a movie or TV series to its written counterpart, and I
Bloody
think you did a good
brilliant,
job of
James.
analyzing this one.
Absolutely amazing. This is genuinely one of the best
Solid
online shows
debut.
I've ever
I
seen.
actually do like your
With a running
analyses
time
on
that makes
both
it
forms
possible
of
for
media
a
with the
TV
princess and the frog and the frog princess.
Good
I
job,
like it,
James!
solid debut. I actually do like your analysis on both forms of the media with
And the gold digger thing was genius.
In conclusion, the series gets a 10 out of 10, and I know of no other comparison in the book genre. After watching Pages to Pictures, I'm dumbfounded, I'm TKO'd, and more importantly, I'm extremely impressed.
More!
I suggest comparing Bambi to Bambi, Alive in the Woods by Felix Salten and Kipling's Jungle Books, the 1967 version.
By suggesting you have to do The Secrets of Nim.
Harry Potter! Alice in Wonderland!
It may be hard to do The Trumpet of the Swan because a lot of people hate that movie.
Oh, by Louis Shire!
My favorite novel.
Mrs. Frisbee, the Red Nim to the Secret Nim, Rapunzel, the Tangled, Henry to the Lion King.
The Adventures of Pinocchio by Carlo Collodi to Disney's Pinocchio 1949. Robot, How to Train Your Dragon.
Oh, Metal Jacket! How to Train Your Dragon! Oh, Very Roger Rabbit!
And of course,
Must have Harry Potter!
compare Lincoln to Hamlet.
Wow. I'm not acting here. When I saw how much people enjoyed the show, I nearly had a heart attack. Seriously, I've never had this much feedback before, let alone positive. Whew. I've got a lot of reading to do now.
God is my witness. As God is my witness, they're not going to lick me.
Aslan is on the move. You're a wizard, Harry.
I'm a what?
Everyone's mad here.
You guys want to go see a dead body?
As you wish.
Do you really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Yippee-ki-yay,
Okay guys, just so I don't get typecast as another guy who does reviews of Disney movies, I think I'll switch my game up a bit by comparing something of a more mature nature. Picture this, a treehouse hangout in an ideal rural small-town community where you hung out with your three best friends and shared delight in doing crazy stuff together. Perhaps your tween years weren't quite like that, but it's a common trend from generation to generation, at least in the United States. And it was also the setting for Rob Reiner's 1986 nostalgic masterpiece, Stand By Me. First time I saw this movie, I was about 7 years old, and I only saw part of the TV edit, which at the age of 7 was probably a good thing.
Shit, piss, fucking hell. Jesus!
Asshole. Bastard.
Shit.
balls.
Tits. Dick, pussy. Stop it. Pussy. Stop, pussy, 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 pussy.
Just like 12-year-old boys, eh? It wasn't until I grew up that I was able to see the film in its entirety, and I really wasn't disappointed. I was surprised, however, to know that it was based off of a book by Stephen King. Yes, the man known mainly for writing horror novels does write other types of stories whenever he can. You might be interested in knowing that The Shawshank Redemption and The Green Mile were both Stephen King stories. The Body, the story that Stand By Me was based on, was part of his 1982 collection, Different Seasons, 4 stories of differing genre, 3 of which have been made into movies. But the question is, which one has the fatter one? The book or the movie? I don't know. Let's take a read. When you compare the 4 lead characters in both mediums, there's not much of a difference. Still, they're all fascinating enough to talk about. This is that ragtag group of kids you were supposed to know back when you were 12. Someone you knew was a little smarter than the rest, a little tougher, a little crazy, a little fat, or maybe a combination of those. What's great about both The Body and Stand By Me is that these kids are mostly given a lot more depth than, say, a standard family flick. Gordy, the smart kid, is not a geek like any other film might make him out to be. He has a really tough home situation that molds his character. His older brother is dead, and his parents could care less about him. On top of that, his brother was the favorite son by which the younger son is compared.
Why can't you have friends like Denny's?
Dad, they're okay.
Sure they are. A thief and 2 Phoebes.
Chris isn't a thief.
He stole the milk money at school. He's a thief in my book.
This is a lot to put on the shoulders of a 12-year-old. I mean, his older brother, who everyone loved, is dead, and his parents are making him feel more than ever that he's not good enough for them. I can't imagine how some kids would put up with that, and I went through years of therapy. Oh, wait, his brother was John Cusack? Well, at least now I see why he was the favorite son. I mean, one of them went off to have a more successful acting career. Look, parents, this really is not good child rearing, okay? Just because one in the litter shows more potential doesn't mean you have to treat the other one like crap. It's not good parenting, and plus, it haunts the kids for life.
He doesn't know you. He hates me. He doesn't hate you. He hates me. No, he just doesn't know you. He hates me. My dad hates me. He hates me a little good.
He's a good actor, though. Normally I'd take this time to go into a little pep talk about how that's a tough nut to crack, but I'm afraid I don't have enough experience in that department to really give a good explanation. Instead, I think I'll go ahead and let somebody with a little bit more experience do the job for me. Austin?
You can spend your whole life trying to win your parents' acceptance, believe me. But at the end of the day, you've just got to do it for yourself, baby.
Yeah, something like that. Not everyone seems to be affected by this notion of misparenting. Guys like Chris here, played by the late great River Phoenix, had it much worse. Try having a drunk for a dad. Somehow that actually works out in his favor because he turned out to be a tough guy that you can depend on. His dad could shove him in the closet for a week and he could care less. But he's got his problems too. When you and your whole family is rough around the edges, it's hard when you want to make a good name for yourself as bad as this guy does after having stolen some kid's lunch money. Yeah, I kinda see the flaw in that. Probably the one kid who's the most messed up in the group is Teddy DeChamp, played by my personal favorite of the 2 Corys, Corey Feldman. This guy's a real character. He's both screwed up and lovable at the same time, most likely due to the fact that his dad was a shell-shocked World War II veteran who snapped on him and melted his ear on the stove. But he somehow still idolizes him simply because of the sacrifice he made for his country. It's amazing. No wonder these kids all hang out with each other. They've all got daddy issues. At least that puts things in perspective, though. I mean, think about it. You think you've got it bad with your dad? You think that your dad doesn't pay enough attention to you? Well, it could be worse. Your dad could be an alcoholic, or a nut job who burned your ear off.
You little tin weasel peckerwood loony son.
What did you call me?
I know who you are. You're Teddy DeChamp. Your dad's a loony. A loony up in the nut house in Togus.
My father stormed the beach at Normandy.
He's crazier than a shithouse rat.
You call my dad a loony again, and I'll kill you.
Loony, loony, loony.
Ah! I'm gonna rip your head off and shut down your neck!
I believe it was director Rob Reiner that said Corey Feldman's parents were going through a divorce at the time of this movie was made. I'm not sure what the situation was, but I'm pretty sure it might have been over whichever parent let him be in Friday the 13th Part 4, not really the final chapter. Still, you can definitely see that a lot of that emotion sort of bled over into this performance, and I really think it helped it turn out to be believable. In fact, I really would like to see this guy get back into acting, because the whole PETA thing, not really working out. Oh wait, what's this? He divorced his parents? I didn't know you could do that. I guess this brings us to our last leading kid, Vern, played by Jerry O'Connell. Here's where the character depth falls short. He's the one kid who's a few cookies shy of a jar. There's no real reason given to us as why this guy turned out to be a cookie-cutter stereotype in either the book or the movie, but the book does go into more depth about how dumb this guy is. How anyone at the age of 12 stays back in the 5th grade and takes an hour and a half to get through the funny pages is beyond me.
Did your mother ever have any kids that lived?
What do you mean?
Speaking of stupid, I want to talk about the career of Jerry O'Connell. I think there's only 2 good movies I can think of that have his name attached to it. This would be one of them, and Joe's Apartment is the other. And yes, he has been in some very well-loved movies, but I'm afraid that the stinkers outweigh the classics. And it's a shame, too, because the guy can really make me laugh. I think I'm getting off topic. Where was I again? Oh yeah, Stand By Me characters. The last character I want to talk about is Ace, played by a young Kiefer Sutherland. And no, I never watched 24, so don't expect any Jack Bauer jokes here. Whether you're reading the book or watching the movie, he's just bad. He's just a bad, bad guy to hang around with. In the book, we honestly don't get treated to as many of his bully tactics as they happen. Mostly they're told in retrospect. But in the film... Whoa, he didn't even flinch. This guy must have a death wish. Whatever his deal is, expecting a bully to act rationally is too much, especially when he tries to talk the other guys into going to pick up the dead body. His motivations here, I find quite baffling.
I still don't think we should go.
Okay. Okay. You stated your position clearly. Now I'm gonna state mine. Get in the fucking car. Now!
You guys are gonna be heroes even if I have to make you bleed. The rest of the characters I have nothing to say on. Either they're not important or interesting enough, or they're just tag-ons to the lead characters. Their only role serves to further the journeys of the lead characters. So now, I'll just move on. There's not much difference in this department to talk about. If I had to sum up the differences here, it's a case of scene switcheroo. Some key scenes happen earlier or later in the timeline depending on what version of the story you have. Most everything is the same. Kids hanging out in a clubhouse hear about the location of a dead kid's body thanks to one of them digging around underneath the porch overhearing his brother talk about it. They decide to go and search for it, thinking they'll be heroes if they do, and from there on, the story and the events that unfold happen pretty much the same. Gordy shoots a garbage can, Nutbag here dodges a train. Vern never brought a comb on the trip in the book, but that's not really a change worth mentioning. One change in the movie that I applaud them for was showing Ace to be more of a bully rather than just telling about it like they do in the book. It helps us as the audience establish more of a relationship with the characters. That's one strength that I think film will always have over books. Showing, not telling. This is one of those book adaptations where the dialogue in the book was just so good to begin with, they didn't have to change much. In fact, if you watch some scenes, it's pretty much word for word, like the scene where Chris admits to stealing the lunch money.
No one even asked me if I took the milk money that time. I just got a 3-day vacation. Did you take it? Yeah, I took it. You knew I took it. Teddy knew I took it. Everyone knew I took it. Even Vern knew it, I think.
It's the same. Word for word, exactly the same. Up until the point where Chris starts crying. That doesn't happen until later in the book. Also noteworthy would probably be Gordy's nightmare. The film had him dreaming about his brother's funeral. Next thing you know, his dad puts his hand on his shoulder and says,
"Should have been you, Gordon."
If you thought that was cold, I actually prefer that over the book version. The film puts the focus on Gordy's disenfranchisement with his dad, which is exactly where it should be. The book, on the other hand, has Gordy dreaming about his dead brother, reaching out from behind his closet, all scabbed up, telling him the same thing. Now that is creepy. That's the Stephen King I know. What happens next?
March. Chico stands at the window, arms crossed, elbows on the ledge that divides the upper and lower panes, naked, looking out, breath fogging the glass. A draft against his belly.
What the hell is this?
Chico?
Chico? Who's Chico? What is this, a melodrama?
In the glass, in his bed,
wasn't I reading something about four boys going to see a dead body?
Defiance of gravity.
Excuse me, book?
Makeup has smeared
I came in here with a group of 4 young boys,
Chico
about
shifts his
yay
gaze
tall.
beyond her ghost.
Have you seen them?
Out beyond the house.
No?
Raining, patches of snow sloughed away to reveal the
I'm
bald
totally
ground
skipping
underneath.
this chapter.
Okay, so that random foray into Sin City territory was a story written by a much older Gordy, with the character of Chico being inspired by his older brother Denny. That's one of the 2 sub-stories in the book written by Gordy that didn't make it into the film. The other story you may remember as The Revenge of Lardass Hogan, the story of a kid who makes everyone at a pie-eating contest puke their guts out. I'm glad this was the one sub-story from the book that made it into the movie. Not because it's crucial to the plot or anything, but because it's one of the greatest puke scenes ever put to film. Provided that you don't look too closely. Yep, definitely some hose action there.
There's a lot of changes I could nitpick over here, so I think I'll just skip to the climax. That's where the big changes are.
Remember how I said Chris didn't quite break down yet in the book? That's because he waits until they find the kid's body first. See, they spend a lot more time on Chris's emotional journey in the book than in the film. The film was interested in giving closure to the emotional journeys of both Chris and Gordy, which is why we have Gordy taking up the gun in the climax. In the book, it was Chris doing that instead. And after the bullies are gone, then he breaks down. As for Gordy, he never breaks down in the book. It's as though he's an android incapable of feeling. After the body is found and the adventure is done, he heads back home to his mother acting like he doesn't exist, and we, the audience, never get a sense of closure. He's just going back to his sucky life again.
That's why I preferred the film's chain of events. Not only does he man up in the end, but we get a little bit more closure to his emotional journey. But wait! There's more! If you remember, the film gave us a brief synopsis of everyone's life after the events in the film.
I heard that Vern got married out of high school, had 4 kids, and is now the forklift operator at the Arsenault lumberyard. Teddy tried several times to get into the army, but his eyes and his ear kept him out. Last I'd heard, he'd spent some time in jail and was now doing odd jobs around Castle Rock. Chris did get out. He enrolled in the college courses with me. And although it was hard, he gutted it out like he always did. He went on to college and eventually became a lawyer. Last week, he entered a fast food restaurant. Just ahead of him, 2 men got into an argument. One of them pulled a knife. Chris, who had always made the best piece, tried to break it up. He was stabbed in the throat. He died almost instantly.
That's how you close out of a movie. It's sad, though. Out of all the characters, Chris is the only one that dies. And he was dying doing something valiant. Stephen King, being the delightfully twisted author he is, had less mercy on his characters and had everybody die young except for Gordy. Why the grim ending? Well, it's Stephen King. But the book has more to do with the theme of how people have a way of bringing you down. And with Ace growing up to be a sad sap of a middle-aged loser who outlives them all after having beaten the snot out of them, yes, he did get his revenge in the book.
We're gonna get you for this.
Maybe you will and maybe you won't.
Oh, we will.
I'll see you in the Lost Boys, Feldman.
Having Ace outlive them all just shows a sense of irony. The so-called good kids died young. The so-called bad kid lived. I have nothing witty to segue out of this segment. Let's just get to plot elements.
The more I think about it, this category and the last one seem to blend around the edges. I might want to think about renaming it to something else in the future. For now, I'll say this much. Turning over to the Stud City story in the book, I consider that a storytelling tactic and therefore a plot element.
albeit not a very interesting one. The slightest change can make a world of difference, even in the narrative flow, and it's clear that Rob Reiner and Stephen King had their differences when portraying the climax. When they find the dead body in the movie, the timing is moderate and just enough to stomach for a movie. Stephen King's version is a bit more on the intense side. Maybe a little bit too intense. I mean, we're talking thunder, lightning, and rain intense. Sometimes theatrics can help your scene, but I don't think you need to go that far if the scene is intense enough already. You got a kid with a knife, another kid with a gun, and a whole lot of cussing. Rob Reiner pulled this scene off without having the weather go haywire, and the drama between the characters was thick enough to cut with a steak knife.
Come on, LaChance, give me the gun. You must have at least some of your brother's good sense.
Suck my fat one, you cheap dime store hood.
Oh, come on, you knew I was gonna do this. In the book, King launches into full prose mode, describing every last detail to the extent where time seems to slow to a crawl when you read it. I can almost feel the hair follicles on my chin growing. I can see why he did it that way. I mean, they're about to go see a dead body. Ever been to a wake before? Ever been a kid going to a wake before? It's intense, people. I should know. The kid was dead. The kid wasn't sick. The kid wasn't sleeping. The kid wasn't going to get up in the morning anymore, or get the runs from eating too many apples, or catch poison ivy, or wear out the eraser on the end of his Ticonderoga No. 2 during a hard math test. The kid was dead. Stone dead. The kid was never going to go out bottling with his friends in the spring, with a sack over his shoulder to pick up the returnables of the retreating snow uncovered. The kid wasn't going to wake up at 2 o'clock a.m. on the morning of November 1st this year, run to the bathroom, and vomit up a big glurt of cheap Halloween candy. The kid wasn't going to pull a single girl's braid.
How can you keep going?
The kid wasn't going
Yes,
to
I admit it. When I first saw this part of the movie as a kid, I wasn't
was,
paying attention.
can't,
I thought the kid was just
won't,
staring off into
never,
space.
shouldn't,
Now I get it. He's
couldn't.
dead. He was always
on the side of
dead.
the battery where the terminal says neg. The fuse you have to put a pin
I
in.
get it.
The
He's
wastebasket
dead.
by the teacher's
Dead as a
desk,
doornail.
which always smells
You
of
couldn't do
cherries
anything else to
and
ram the
sharpened
point in.
condensed
Die.
orange peels from lunch.
You know,
The
die,
haunted house
dead
outside of
old
town.
Rama.
What the hell?
You won't be alive
No
anymore.
trespassing signs.
It's
passed on. This parrot is no more. It has ceased to be.
Just think of it as you're being let go, that your life's going in a different direction, that your body's part of a permanent outplacement.
I better wrap this up.
Lastly, I want to talk about the music. The soundtrack to the movie was appropriately accompanied with a lot of hit songs from the 50s, perfectly setting the mood. I used to have this soundtrack on record as a kid. It's a real dime dropper. Must have heard it 100 times. I only wish they put the score from the movie in there.
And now I'm done. So now this is the part where I get to tell you which I think is better, the book or the movie. Movie wins just by a smidge.
I cherish these moments.
Considering that both stories are almost identical, the deciding factor is in the mood that each medium creates. Stand By Me, with its emphasis on humor and oldies music, creates a rather bittersweet atmosphere. The Body focuses more on the darker aspects of the story and is therefore bitter without the sweet. So if I'm going to hear a story that harkens back to a time when things were much simpler and life seemed more pleasant, I'd like to smile. I still have one question though. The title, Stand By Me. Why did they choose to name this movie after a classic love song between what appears to be an older man and a woman? Perhaps it's because, aside from being a hit song from that era this film takes place in, one could argue that these four best friends all stuck together during this sad and funny adventure. But still, it's a love song. Is there a 1950s romance going on here that I don't know about? Ray?
It's a voodoo hayako.
Not even close to an answer. Alright folks, this concludes my latest episode of From Pages to Pictures. I want to thank you all again for your overwhelmingly kind comments and support. Just one thing though, I'm afraid I have to limit new requests for now. I realize I have so many requests and that there's no way I can fulfill everyone's request. So unless your request is just so awesome that I have to completely rewrite my upcoming schedule just to accommodate it, I'm afraid you're gonna have to not be offended if I ignore your request. If you want to vote on a request that's already been made, simply stop by your local forum and cast your vote. So until next time, this is Jaimetud saying, ciao for now.
A lollipop.
Hey guys, I totally forgot to mention earlier, but did you know that the body occupies the same literary universe as Cujo, Carrie, and The Shawshank Redemption? I'm not kidding. You can look it up. Pretty awesome, huh? Late.
When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we'll see. No, I won't be afraid. Oh, I won't be afraid. Just as long.
Did your mother ever have any kids that lived? What do you mean?
Sick 'em, boy!
Now he said sick 'em boy, but what I heard was chopper sick balls.